Hello and welcome to the channel of Healing and Growth. Today I want to share about my personal experience in professional settings. Have you ever noticed that your day goes really well or really stressful depending on who you are working with during your shift? Sometimes you might work with people who have inability to cope with stress. And whenever something happens, for instance, let's say you're working short staffed, and instead of focusing on the tasks ahead of you, some staff members will spend half of the shift complaining about being short staffed rather than doing what they're actually supposed to be doing. And by the end of the day, everyone feels stressed out because they are hearing the complaints after complaints after complaints from their coworkers for some stuff from some external situations that they don't have control over. Instead of focusing on what you're supposed to do your job. You don't have to do a 5 people job when you're one person. But when you're focusing on what could go wrong instead of what I could do to make it right, it end up making the entire shift so stressful and so contagious for everyone you're working with without even realizing that. You know, to me, when I see those kind of situations, I'm like, you know what? I have been there before. I know how it feels like to be stressed about everything and anything. And I know how it feels. It's not pretty. So when you read those external situations guide you rather than just being who you are and what you're supposed to be doing at that right time, at that very moment, and focus on what could go wrong because we're short-staffed, because the management doesn't know what they're doing, and you feel like you're the center of everything falling apart. It makes it so difficult to make the work effective and to work in harmony with your coworkers. So when I see this kind of situations, now that I have taken time to work on myself and understand myself on deeper levels and see where the origin of my stress, the origin of my struggles, I don't let that someone else's stress become my stress. Sometimes I could hear some of my coworkers asking me like, how come we don't see you stressed? How come we see you always smiley even when we feel like the world is about to crumble on our feet because we're short staffed, because we're always dealing with this and that, and management does not care and this and that. I'm like, I have been there. I know how it feels like to stress over external situations that I don't have control, and I don't want to go back there because it has nothing to do with me. I come here to do the work. I present myself here to do the work. I present myself to the best that I can. I don't promise to do a 5 people job. What I do promise to myself, even if I don't claim that out loud, is to be right there at that very moment in the reality of the situation and do the best that I can, despite having all those challenges. Instead of me seeing what would go wrong, I see it for what it is and present myself in that very moment and do what I'm supposed to do. And it didn't happen overnight to be able to be stress-free in work environment. It took years and years of self-reflections, of working on myself, and actually identify the source of my struggles when I am in a work environment. Rather than keep blaming everyone else around me, I always reflect back at me as a person who's in the professional setting, from what I can do, I do, and what I cannot do, I don't have to stress over because it's not my concern. So I see a difference of living with truth to yourself, knowing the origin of your stress, and deal with it accordingly. And it works every single time. So when I am in that type of environment, I made it clear to separate the external environment versus how I feel and who I am, and present myself as who I am on what I can do and what I can control. What I cannot, I don't even think about it a second because it's not my concern. So how do you deal with stress in your work environment? Mine to share so that we can help people who are going through similar challenges, that are having hard time to cope with stress in their work environment, so that they can actually reflect back and look the inward of what is making them feel stressful over the situations they have no control over. Inner work is very crucial to change that narrative around work stress environment.